Hey there, everybody, and welcome to 5 Steps to Have More Energy Today. This is an episode of Happiness Isn't Brain Surgery podcast with Dr. dawn-elise Snipes. When we're talking about having more energy, one of the things that we can do is called psychological flexibility, and that means using our higher order processes to choose how to use our energy to help us achieve our goals. So we're not wasting energy doing things that are seemingly keep holding us back. The first step in psychological flexibility is to figure out what you want and what goals are important in your life. And a lot of us have never really taken time to sit back and do that, which is unfortunate. We need to look and see who, in terms of friends and family, are important in our life. There are a lot of people we can have in our life, but who is it that we really want to focus our precious energy on? We want to look at our health and what things we want to do, what's important in terms of our health. Maybe running a marathon is not important in your life, so that's not somewhere you want to use your energy. But generally, staying healthy is. So you want to be able to identify, on any given day, what's more important for me to use my energy on, going to the gym or doing something else. Other areas that we want to figure out importance, if you will, include finances, your career, and generally your values. And let's talk about career for a second. You can want to have your job, and I'm using that term specifically, in order to pay your bills. It's a means to an end. It's not a career. It's not something that you love going to every day, but it allows you to have other things that are important in your life, like your boat or your car or your house or whatever it is. For other people, their career is a central focus of their life, and getting promotions and being successful in their career and being well known in their field is important for them in order to fulfill what they perceive as a rich and meaningful life. And finally, values, and we're going to talk about that in a little while, but basically, values are the things that are most important to you. When you're making decisions on a day-to-day basis, how congruent are those decisions with the values that you hold most dear? And one of the things that you can do is go online and download a values worksheet. And there's usually between 30 and 100 values words on there. And go through and identify your top 20. And from that top 20, eliminate any that are synonyms of one another. And you'll probably be still left with 8 or 12. Pare it down and identify in your mind, think about if somebody was going to write your epitaph, what would you want on your epitaph? Jane Smith will be remembered for being the loyal, devoted, caring, compassionate person she was. Now, obviously, loyal, devoted, and caring and compassionate are somewhat synonyms, but I'm talking on the fly here. So what 3 to 5 values would you want to be remembered by when you're no longer here? Once you've figured that out, then every time you make a decision in your day, you can ask yourself, is this helping me get closer to or further away from the person I want to be? Identify things that you do or think that drain your energy and don't have anything to do with your goals. Sometimes we may engage in activities that have nothing to do with our goals. And it's important to recognize that you're spending your time and energy doing that. For example, I may spend a little more time watching TV than I probably should in the evenings. And, watching television has nothing to do with helping me achieve my goals, except it helps me relax, which is important so I can get good sleep. So I justify it a little bit. But other activities that we do and thoughts and feelings can also either help us be empowered and motivated to do something, or to move backwards and just kind of spin our wheels, kind of like a truck being stuck in the mud. When you get upset over something, and I will use the Iowa caucus as a perfect example. We could spend a lot of energy talking about it and getting upset about what happened and pondering and being frustrated and yada, yada, yada. Is that going to change anything? And the answer is no. It's done. It is what it is. We can learn from it so it doesn't happen again next time we have an election, next time we have a caucus. However, getting upset and staying angry about it and continuing to talk about it nonstop does absolutely nothing to solve the problem or help any of us achieve any sort of goals. We're just spinning our wheels in that mud. Check your behaviors. Check your the thoughts that you ruminate on a lot. Are they helping you move forward? Are you problem solving, or are you just turning the same problem over and over again, kind of like kneading bread dough? Recognize that you have the power to choose. Once you recognize what's going on and how you feel about it, and what you may need to do or what your options are in order to improve the next moment, and in order to use your energy to address that situation in a way that gets you closer to your goals, you need to recognize you have the power to choose. Your thoughts can be altered or stopped. You don't have to continue thinking about that thing that is making you so angry. You can choose what to do about it. Anger is a feeling that we have that tells us we either need to fight or flee. It tells us there's a threat going on. Sitting there and just thinking about the fact that there's a threat doesn't protect us from the threat. What we need to do is say, okay, thank you, body, for letting me know there's a threat. Now, what can I do to address that threat in a way that's meaningful? Sometimes you may get angry about things that really are inconsequential. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, somebody says something mean on your Facebook page, whatever it is. And you can decide at that point, is this worth my energy to do anything about? Is this worth my energy to confront this person or do something to handle the situation? Or is this something that I am going to work to let go? And what letting go looks like is different for each and every person, but it is important to recognize that you can choose to change your thoughts. As I said, feelings are normal, but you can choose which ones you use energy to nurture. And that's the difference. We have feelings. You're going to have anger. You're going to have fear. You're going to have guilt. You're going to have all those things. Those are natural and normal feelings. What we do with them is what makes them helpful or unhelpful. If I sit there and I nurture this anger and resentment, and I use a lot of energy to let it grow, it's just going to continue to get bigger and heavier, and I'm still going to be carrying it around because I haven't addressed the threat. I haven't addressed what's causing it. That's generally not helping us get closer to our goals. What do we need to do? Again, the Iowa caucus. We can't do anything to change what happened. Sitting there and nurturing it and talking about who did what and who was wrong and blaming and this and that, that's not going to do anything. We can choose to feel empowered. We can choose to feel courageous. We can choose to feel determined to make sure that doesn't happen again. And then we can choose empowered, courageous, determined behaviors to learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. So what can I do as a person? I don't even live in Iowa, so there's not a lot I can do about the Iowa caucus. But what can I do as a person in order to ensure this type of thing doesn't happen in my state, when it comes to time to vote in my state? And remember that sometimes you don't have to do anything. Just like what I said about the person who decides to make an unkind comment on your Facebook page or whatever. That person may have been in a really bad spot that day, or maybe in a really bad spot a lot of time, and it's really dark in their mind. Do you want to spend energy joining them in that dark spot? Or do you want to have compassion and maybe pity on them for being so angry and feeling the need to be so hateful, and then choose to use those feelings of compassion, nurture those feelings, and let them go. One thing you can do to start freeing up that energy is figure out where you're draining it right now. Where are you being stuck in the mud? Make a list of things that drain your energy but don't help you achieve your goals, and identify what you can choose to do differently. And a lot of times that has to do with holding on to guilt and resentment and anger, but sometimes it's behaviors that we do that are unhelpful, such as staying up extra late and not getting enough sleep so we feel run down the next day, which means we're not as focused at work. And if your career is important to you, then you're not going to likely be quite as successful. So thinking about ways that you can conserve your energy and use them for things that are important. Asking yourself, is this important to do? Some days, I came home from a trip and I had 7 loads of laundry to do by the time I came home. And I was only gone for 4 days. I don't know what my children did while I was away, but we had 7 loads of laundry to do. And part of me was frustrated about it. And then I said, being frustrated about this is not going to do any good. How can I better use my energy? Can I recruit them to help with the folding once I get it through the wash and the dry? Yeah, I can do that. Can I do a few loads and then, do a couple more loads throughout the week so I don't have to spend my entire weekend doing laundry, and I can use my energy over this weekend to focus on other things that are important to me, like my animals and my garden and actually spending quality time with my children? Yes, I can do that. So I needed to choose. Am I going to get upset and just pout and spend all day doing 7 loads of laundry? Or am I going to figure out a better way to do that so I can use what energy and time I have in a way that's meaningful to me? The next step, or another step, is becoming mindful. Notice how you're feeling and the facts of the situation. When you feel a certain way, that's okay. Feelings are natural. Notice them. When you feel angry, when you feel scared or stressed, notice it. And then check the facts. Is there something to be angry about? Is there something to be stressed about right now? Is there actually a threat? Anger, fear, stress, worry, those are all what I call fire alarm emotions. Those are emotions we have that when our brain tells us there might be a threat, just like our brain tells us there might be, or our fire alarm tells us there might be a fire, but there might not be. Our fire alarm goes off, periodically, and thank heavens, so far there's never been a fire. Usually it's been the windows being open and the wind blowing strongly, or me forgetting something in the oven. But there are things that happen that are not fire, but the fire alarm says you need to check and see if there's actually a threat. That's what anger and anxiety and all those related emotions are in our brain. They are the fire alarm emotions to tell us, check it out. Is there actually a threat right now? And that's where mindfulness comes in. Looking at the situation and going, in this time, in this place, in this context, am I safe or is there a threat? Remember that when we feel a feeling, to tell yourself it is what it is, and recognize that you don't have to act on every urge. You may see a commercial on TV at night. I know I do, and I'm really guilty of this sometimes. And the commercial comes on for some kind of pizza or food or something, and I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry. I have to have that. And I know good and well I'm not going to get up and get dressed and go get it. In my mind, I'm saying I have to have it, and I'm noticing that I want it right now. But just like when a bee lands on your arm, your first urge, I want to swat it off my arm. I want it to go away. But you know what? If I notice that it's there, and, obviously I'm not deathly allergic to them, I can look at the bee and I can recognize that if I swat it, I'm probably going to get stung, and I don't want to do that. So I am able to choose not to act on my urges. I'm able to choose not to act on my impulse to swat it, and I can tolerate that bee being there until it flies off. We can tolerate our urges until they dissipate. We can tolerate our feelings until they dissipate if there is no immediate threat. If there's an immediate threat, obviously you need to do something. Think about what are you going to do to improve the next moment that will use your energy to move you toward your goals. And I talk about dog poop. And I talk about dog poop a lot. That's what I get for volunteering for so many years to do animal rescue. But dog poop is interesting because when you walk in the house or you get up in the morning and you smell dog poop, and assuming you have dogs, if you don't have dogs, it's kind of a much bigger issue. But assuming you have dogs, the first thing you do is go, that's a clue. Just like that fire alarm, it's a clue that you need to pay attention to the fact that there might be dog poop somewhere, somehow. And you need to go check it out and see if there is something to be cleaned up. And our feelings are the same way. They're kind of like dog poop, or the smell of dog poop. We want to figure out if there is something there. If there is something there, we want to clean it up. We don't want to let the dog poop sit. If there is a threat, we want to do something about it. We don't want to just let it sit. Otherwise, it's going to permeate our entire day. So daily, what can you do? You can wake up and make a plan to intentionally use your energy to move toward those things that are important to you, whatever those are. Choose in the morning that, okay, I am going to be focused, and before I make any steps, before I make any behavioral decisions, I'm going to think to myself, is this getting me closer to or further away from the person I want to be and the life I want to have? When you experience distress, and it'll happen, you're in line at the grocery store, or you're in traffic, or a meeting that you don't want to be in, that's fine. Notice how you're feeling. Accept how you're feeling. It is what it is. Thank you for letting me feel feelings. All right. Now I can choose, what can I do to improve the next moment? We used to have these meetings, oh my gosh, that were 8-hour-long meetings once a month. And I have a hard time sitting still for 8 minutes, let alone 8 hours. And I knew going into those meetings, I would get all frustrated. I would use a lot of energy just dreading those meetings, which didn't fix anything. Instead, I now recognize that I can notice that I'm dreading this meeting coming up. I can accept the fact that I'm dreading this meeting coming up, but I have to go. And I can choose how to improve the next moment. How can I, A, stop using my energy to dread it because it's going to happen? And B, what can I do to make that meeting more tolerable? How can I choose to use my energy to make that event less dreadful? So there's a lot of noticing, accepting, and choosing. And once you start doing that, it doesn't sound like it makes a big difference, but it really does make a big difference. Even in things like eating. I love food, so eating comes up a lot. And at night, I may go upstairs and I may think, oh, I really want a snack. That's an urge. I notice, I recognize it. But do I want to use the energy to get a snack and eat that close to bedtime, which will probably disrupt my sleep because I don't sleep well on a full stomach? No, because that is counterproductive to my overall goals. So I notice that I want to have a snack. I think about it and recognize that it doesn't help me get closer to my goals. It's actually counterproductive. And I choose not to have a late night snack. Message me at support@DocSnipes.com if there are other topics you want me to cover. Subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the button below. Go to DocSnipes.com/podcast if you want to subscribe to the podcast. And remember that Happiness Isn't Brain Surgery podcast can also be found on any podcast player app.